Hello everyone, this is Devin Thorpe. I'm a Forbes contributor covering social entrepreneurship and impact investing, and today you can't see me, but you can hear me. I have an extraordinary panel of guests that you're looking at, in fact, right now. This is Mohammed Ishaq and Aziz Memon and Tunji Funsho, who are the Polio Plus Committee chairmen for their respective countries for Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Nigeria. And these are the countries, the only three countries on the planet where where polio is still endemic. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us for this really vitally important discussion. It's really a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having us.
Why don't we start with you, Tunji, if we may, in Nigeria, because I think that the news from Nigeria is probably the best in the world. That we are quickly approaching the point where we can start talking about the eradication of polio in Africa. I think the last case of polio in Nigeria was in May. What do we need to do to make sure that's the last polio case in Nigeria ever?
Thank you. I think what we need to do is to continue doing what we're doing so far to get us to this point where we have only 5 cases so far this year, as compared to 35 at the same time last year. And look out for anything that will destabilize what we've been doing so far. The challenges of security in the northeastern part of the country is something we've learned to live with in the last 12 to 15 months. And despite that, we've been able to reduce these numbers. The important thing is for us not to take our eyes off the ball, continue to do the things we've been doing so far, and try to ensure that anything that crops up to destabilize this effort so far, our strategic group at the National Emergency Operating Center will tackle it immediately.
I think that's a great principle, and one of the things that could potentially destabilize the efforts is the change in government. You're having a presidential election that will be held next February. What would you call upon leaders to do in order to make sure that that transition doesn't interrupt the great progress you've made?
We've anticipated that, based on our experience in 2009. When politicians, both at the federal and state levels, took their eyes off the ball, and we had a little bit of a hike in the numbers of cases. So we started off in April by convening a national polio summit in conjunction with the government to bring attention back to the fact that, this is still a top priority. The government said that early last year with the presidential task force. And we had a very good meeting with all partners and the government represented to come up with a communique. As a matter of fact, a monitoring group within the government and partners was formed at that meeting, just to ensure that the decisions that we're taking at that summit gets implemented. Primarily, the purpose of that summit was to ensure that we don't lapse into what we had in 2009 with much less commitment and much less involvement by political leaders in particular in Polio Eradication Initiative. So we're doing that, and we continually engage the government at the federal level and also at the state level, particularly those state governors that we, after our IPDs, we have indices that we use in judging the performance of state governments. As far as the support for the IPDs are concerned. And those that we find wanting, we actually do 2 things. One is to make a representation to the federal government to put pressure on them. And number 2 is to have a one-on-one with them, particularly with our partners, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Dangote Foundations, who have a lot of influence now politically.
Yeah.
Leaders, we engage them and ensure that they keep on track.
Now, those are great efforts, and it's so vitally important. The world really has its attention focused on you three. I hope you don't feel any pressure, but this really is important, isn't it? Mohammed, I wonder if you would comment a little bit about what's going on in Afghanistan. Clearly, the biggest challenge you seem to face is from your neighbor. And I wonder if you would just comment a little bit about the things you're doing and how you're working with Pakistan in order to end polio in Afghanistan.
Thank you very much. As you know, the Afghanistan and Pakistan are in the same epidemiological block, so that the efforts should be synchronized, coordinated, and cooperated. So, with Pakistan, we have cross-border meetings. We synchronize our activities, and then in the crossing points, we have some transit polio vaccination points. So the incoming and outgoing children who are crossing these points are vaccinated. So at the bigger level, I think there is a correlation. If you want to eradicate polio from Afghanistan, so we have to work hard in Pakistan. And then if you want to eradicate polio from Pakistan, then we have to work hard in Afghanistan. So these efforts are very much interconnected. And the cases that we have in Afghanistan, it's they're all matches, and the genotype is from the side of the border, from Pakistan. In the meantime, the bigger issue for us is like the IDPs. With the operation of the Pakistan military in North Waziristan, some of the refugees have come to this side of the border, and then one case has been confirmed amongst these population, but still our partners, WHO, UNICEF, and also the government, EPI, they are trying hard to vaccinate the children who come to, and they have not been vaccinated for the past 4 years, and now they are trying to vaccinate them here. And then we have vaccinated like 38,000 children who have migrated for taking shelter to this side of the border.
That's remarkable work. Now, Aziz, I think really there's a lot of pressure, I'm sure, that you feel because of the challenges that we've been experiencing in Pakistan with the number of polio cases actually rising this year compared to last year. But the efforts that I understand that you're taking are really Herculean. Would you talk about some of the things that you're doing in Pakistan to get a handle on this problem?
Sure, but let's go back a little bit, let's go back to 2012. For the first 7 months in 2012, we did not have a single case. And we were doing absolutely fine, but then several things happened. One was that the government, handed over powers to a caretaker government for an election. The complete polio program was rolled back. They closed the Prime Minister monitoring cell. The Prime Minister focal person was laid off for polio eradication. And to top it up, we had this issue of Dr. Shakil Afridi, which prompted the Taliban to issue a ban on the OPB, polio drops which we are giving.
Right.
It was a setback, plus they started killing the vaccinators. On the 18th of December 2012, they killed about 18 vaccinators. So we are now in a new era where army has gone into North Waziristan, have rescued those children who could not get a single drop for last 3.5 years. And North Waziristan was the biggest polio reservoir, creating all the mess and sending down all the cases. All the cases which were coming in Pakistan this year are from there only. Punjab, which is the largest province, has got no case. Balochistan has no case for last 2 years. So we are now focusing on those children who are made available in the camps, and we are having the permanent transitory points to ensure that these children and the families, when they move from one area to another, whether they're going to Afghanistan or they're going to Sindh or Balochistan, the children who were deprived of the OPV for 3.5 years do get it. So we feel that this is a blessing to us, and it's a challenge because the displaced persons are also a human issue, and they are there out in these they don't have any shelter, and the number is 1 million plus.
It's a scary situation. As we contemplate this North Waziristan area where the local leaders have been so resistant to the polio vaccination program over the last 2 years, are you thinking about, I understand that Rotary has been involved with efforts to work with ulemas and other local leaders to try and make some progress about getting the vaccination programs going again locally. How is that going?
That is going very well, and our Ulma committee, which is headed by Maulana Haji Hanif Tayyab of Rotary, is doing all the possible efforts. In last 2 years, we held 2 conferences where we had the religious leaders from Makkah, Medina, Cairo, Al-Azhar University to come and deliberate for 2 days, and at the end of the 2 days signed a joint declaration which has the signature of all the religious leaders. So this we have printed in all languages, and it is giving a great support to us in reaching the community. That's why we have cut down the refusals. There used to be a huge number of refusals. Now the refusals have gone down tremendously, and there is no resistance. It was only the concern of security and accessibility. Once North Waziristan is clear, the children are available, the security situation opens up, which we hope will soon do. We will be able to, finish it in 2 rounds. Today also, when the numbers have increased, but the infected districts have reduced. That means it is just moving in a cluster. We are done with virus 2, virus 3, only virus 1 is prevailing, and that also is just moving in clusters. Hopefully we should be able to complete the job along with Nigeria and Afghanistan.
Well, the end game strategy calls for the eradication of polio officially in 2018. But in order to accomplish that, we need to pass 3 years with no actual cases of polio, which really means that our goal to end polio in 2018 is to have the final case of polio in 2015. What do we need to do in Pakistan to make that happen?
We are doing everything possible. Rotary International is doing everything possible. Our international chair, John Germ, is going to visit Pakistan soon. We have requested Rotary World President Gary also to come in March to meet the President and the Prime Minister. We are working with the government from the lowest to the topmost position, and we are engaging them. The government is busy because they have other important agendas, the security concerns and fighting the terrorists. So we need them to take a greater ownership, and we need them to have the leading role, because after all, the government ownership is of importance.
Certainly. Well, this is an exciting time. I wonder, Mohammed, if you would just comment a little bit about what you think is required to wrap things up in Afghanistan.
It's easy. If the problems on Pakistan sides are solved, then we are safe. We are polio-free. It was targeted that Afghanistan should be polio-free till the end of 2014. To one or two new cases connected to the other side of the border in Afghanistan is a little bit prolong our fight against this disease. So we are hopeful that till the end of 2015, we would be able to eradicate this crippling disease. This is something that we need also in our country, you know, the elections. It has started from March and then still continuing, no clear result. So we are hopeful that the future government, which comes in, has the same commitment to PEI and polio eradication program in the country. And that's one of the challenges. And the other challenges, like there are some pockets of inaccessibility due to security reasons. We are hopeful that those pockets, those areas are in the east and also in the south in Helmand. So if we reach those, we access the children over there, then we would be in a strong position to eradicate polio from Afghanistan.
That's wonderful. Tunji, I wonder if you would just comment on what you would ask Rotarians and the general public around the world to do to support the efforts that you three are making.
I think the first thing, we still have some work to do to make Rotarians appreciate the enormous amount of contribution they've made in the past to the polio eradication effort. Firstly, you know, because of their advocacy, and secondly, because of their contributions. Unfortunately, we have a large turnover in Rotary membership. So we have a lot of Rotarians who were not there when we started and are not appreciative of how much work our organization has done. We need to get out there and reacquaint them with this huge project that Rotary has taken on for almost a quarter of a century, and appeal to them to continue to support in advocacy and also to raise funds because we still have some funding gap, which is almost $500 million for us to get to the end of the program in 2018. So those are the two essential things, you know, advocacy on the part of Rotarians and also contributing to ensure that the funding gap is bridged.
Those are great things. Aziz, I wonder if you would comment on what you would ask the United Nations and the governments of the world to be doing. How can those entities be engaging to support you in bringing an end to polio around the world?
At this point, you know, the displaced persons are a big issue to us, and we need to give them some comfort, give them some food, you know, they need shelter, they need medicines. It is just not polio alone. There could be an outbreak of any other disease also. There's lack of clean drinking water, and somehow our government is not asking or accepting any help from any friendly country. They want to do it themselves. So it's a challenge to us, but we hope that once the dust settles down, and now as North Waziristan is cleared of the terrorists, we will be able to have access to the children who were deprived of the OPV, and this would clear our path to make Pakistan polio-free.
Very good. Very good. Well, gentlemen, I do appreciate you taking the time to be with me this afternoon and our audience. It's just wonderful to see the progress you're making. It's great to hear about the struggle and the effort you're making. Really, you're working on our behalf, and we recognize and appreciate that, and recognize your work right on the front lines in a battle that is really of global significance and emblematic, I think, not only of your ability to end disease, but also your ability to end suffering of all kinds. And I think we can learn a lot from the model of this global effort to eradicate polio. I would point our audience to the website endpolio.org to learn more and engage, to do as Tunji said, and make a contribution and advocate on behalf of this effort, because it is so tremendously valuable to the global population. Again, gentlemen, I thank you for your time and look forward to connecting with you again in the future.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
All righty, let's do some good.